Good evening. I am the Sleepy Doctor. And tonight I will take you on a journey into a question so vast, so unsettling, that it may forever alter the way you see yourself, your history, and even the very ground beneath your feet. But before we step into this labyrinth of mystery, if you enjoy unraveling hidden truths and venturing into the forbidden corners of knowledge, then be sure to subscribe, and don't forget to click that like button. It helps me continue to bring these stories to you, and ensures you never miss another descent into the shadows of forgotten time. Now, let us begin. What if humans weren't the first civilization? For as long as we've studied our past, a single assumption has guided us: that humans are the first and only civilization to ever walk this planet. We tell ourselves we were the beginning of history, the dawn of intelligence, the first to rise from the dust and command fire, metal, cities, machines. But what if that assumption is wrong? What if, buried beneath the layers of earth, under miles of ocean, or erased entirely by time, there were others before us? Civilizations with languages, technologies, even dreams of their own long before we claimed the earth as ours. The idea sounds like science fiction. Yet when we look closely, when we dare to peel back the comforting veil of accepted history, we find strange cracks. In myth, in geology, in ancient ruins that should not exist. And it is in these cracks that a darker, older story might be hiding. Imagine it: you are not standing at the top of the human story, but in its second chapter. Or perhaps its third. The Earth is 4.5 billion years old. Humans, as we know them, have only existed for about 200,000 years. And civilization, our civilization, is barely 6,000 years old. Just a flicker of a candle in the eternal night of geological time. So the question must be asked: is it arrogance or blindness to believe we were the first? Let us travel deep into the past. Not centuries, not millennia, but millions, even billions of years back, when the continents were not where they are now. When mountains we know today were flat plains. When entire oceans existed that no longer do. The Earth is a master of erasure. Over time, wind, water, fire, and tectonic movement grind mountains to dust. Oceans rise and swallow continents whole. Volcanoes smother landscapes under rivers of fire. Ice sheets march across land, crushing everything in their path. If a civilization had risen 10 million years ago, what would be left of it today? Stone buildings would have crumbled. Metal would have rusted to nothing. Glass would have shattered and been swallowed by the soil. Even the tallest skyscraper would be gone in less than 10,000 years. Think about that. New York City, London, Tokyo, if abandoned, would vanish almost entirely in less than 10,000 years. Forests would consume them. Oceans would reclaim them. Within a blink of geological time, the traces of our world would disappear. Now stretch that to 1 million years. 10 million. 100 million. If a civilization had existed, even a vast and advanced one, it could have been reduced to nothing more than a few strange anomalies in the rocks. This is not wild speculation, it is the sobering reality of geology. The Earth does not keep records kindly. It buries, it crushes, it melts, it recycles. So perhaps the better question is not, could there have been others before us? But rather, how could we ever know if there were? If hard evidence has been erased, could the memories survive another way? Across the world, ancient myths tell of forgotten ages, golden times when gods or beings of immense power walked the earth, only to vanish in cataclysms of fire and flood. Take the legend of Atlantis. Described by Plato as an advanced island nation with technologies and wisdom far beyond its time, which was swallowed by the sea in a single night of disaster. Scholars argue endlessly over whether Plato invented the story, or whether he was retelling something much older. But Atlantis is only one story among hundreds. In India, the Mahabharata describes cities with weapons as powerful as the stars, machines that flew across the sky, wars that shook the heavens. The texts speak of a time before our current age, an earlier cycle of civilization. The ancient Sumerians spoke of kingship descending from the heavens before the Great Flood, and listed dynasties of rulers stretching back tens of thousands of years. The Hopi people of North America tell of worlds before this one, 3 prior ages, each destroyed by fire, ice, or flood, before the present world was born. Even the Bible speaks of ages before the flood, of giants and mighty men who lived before history was remade. Are these simply stories? Allegories? Or are they distorted memories of something real, echoes of civilizations erased so completely that only their myths remained, whispered across generations like fading smoke? And why do so many cultures, separated by oceans and mountains, carry myths of floods? Massive, world-ending floods that wiped away what came before? Science tells us that around 12,000 years ago, at the end of the last ice age, the Earth experienced rapid melting, sea levels rising over 400 feet. Entire coastlines vanished. If humans barely survived, what else might have been lost beneath those rising waters? If we are not the first civilization, there should be traces, small, stubborn relics that time has not completely erased. And indeed, scattered across the world are objects that should not exist, artifacts that appear to mock the timeline we have so carefully built. Archaeologists call them OOP, arts out of place artifacts. In 1885, a block of coal was broken open in Austria. Inside it was discovered an iron cube, perfectly shaped, with straight edges, unlike anything that should have existed in prehistoric times. The coal that encased it was at least 20 million years old. How did something manufactured end up inside? In 1912, miners in Oklahoma found a delicate iron pot, embedded inside a single lump of coal. The coal was estimated to be over 300 million years old. The pot should not have been there. In Russia, tiny spirals of tungsten and molybdenum were unearthed in sediments at least 100,000 years old. These metals are used today in aerospace engineering because of their strength. Yet here they were microscopic, coiled with precision, sitting quietly in the earth long before humans had supposedly discovered metalworking. And then there is the Antikythera mechanism. Pulled from a shipwreck in Greece, it is a device of staggering complexity, a bronze machine with gears and dials capable of predicting astronomical movements with precision. It dates back over 2,000 years, but nothing like it should have existed until the Middle Ages. Scholars call it the world's first computer. But what if it is not the first? What if it is a remnant of knowledge handed down from something even older, something far beyond Greece? Mainstream science often dismisses these finds. The objects are anomalies, mistakes, misunderstandings, or hoaxes. Perhaps some are. But what if even one is real? If even one object is genuinely out of place, then our entire history needs to be rewritten. Because a single manufactured object buried in coal 300 million years old does not just defy history, it destroys it. If there were civilizations before us, most of their remains would now be buried not under mountains of soil, but beneath the crushing depths of the ocean. Over 70% of Earth is covered in water. And shockingly, more than 80% of those oceans remain unexplored. That means most of our own planet is still a mystery to us. What might lie hidden on the ocean floor? Take the Yonaguni Monument off the coast of Japan. Submerged beneath the waves, it appears to be a massive stone structure, steps, platforms, terraces like a sunken temple or pyramid. Some say it is a natural formation. Others believe it is the remains of an ancient civilization swallowed by the sea at the end of the Ice Age, around 12,000 years ago. In the Gulf of Cambay, off the coast of India, sonar scans revealed what seemed to be the outlines of an ancient city beneath the water. Divers recovered artifacts, including stone tools, dating back 9,000 years. That would make it older than the oldest known civilizations. But the site is largely ignored because it contradicts the accepted timeline. Legends tell of entire continents that sank. Atlantis in the Atlantic, Lemuria in the Indian Ocean, Mu in the Pacific. Are these myths, or faint memories of real lands that once thrived, only to vanish beneath rising seas? Consider this. At the end of the last ice age, glaciers melted at terrifying speed. Sea levels rose over 400 feet. Whole coastlines disappeared, taking any settlements with them. If there were civilizations living near the sea, and almost every civilization does, their remains would now lie far beneath the waves, hidden in silence. We search space for alien life, yet the greatest alien world may lie at the bottom of our own oceans, containing the ruins of forgotten ages. For centuries, we believed that civilization began about 5,000 years ago, with the rise of Sumer in Mesopotamia. That was the story. That was the line. And then came Gobekli Tepe. In the hills of modern-day Turkey, archaeologists uncovered a site unlike anything they had ever seen. massive stone pillars arranged in circles, carved with intricate animals and symbols. It was not a simple settlement but a temple, an advanced, deliberate construction. The shock? It is over 12,000 years old. That makes it twice as old as Stonehenge. Older than the pyramids. Older even than the invention of writing. Gobekli Tepe should not exist. According to the textbooks, humans at that time were hunter-gatherers, barely scratching survival from the earth. They were not supposed to be quarrying, carving, and aligning megaliths weighing many tons. Yet there it stands, undeniable. And if one such site exists, how many others might we have missed? How many lie buried beneath soil, hidden under forests, or drowned by the seas? Gobekli Tepe is not just an archaeological site. It is a crack in the dam. A whisper of an earlier sophistication, hinting that human history is far, far older than we are willing to admit. And here's the chilling thought. If our story is already so much older than we believed, then perhaps there were entire civilizations before us lost, erased, forgotten, waiting for us to rediscover them. In 2018, two scientists, Gavin Schmidt of NASA and Adam Frank, an astrophysicist, published a paper that shook both the scientific and speculative communities. It was called the Silurian hypothesis. The question they asked was deceptively simple. If an industrial civilization had existed on Earth millions of years ago, would we be able to detect it today? The answer was as unsettling as it was thought-provoking. Maybe not. Think about it. If a civilization like ours rose 50 million years ago, every trace of its cities, technologies, and monuments would likely be gone. Plastics would break down. Concrete would crumble. Metal would rust into dust. Even nuclear waste, buried deep, would eventually decay. The only traces left might be chemical fingerprints in the geological record. Layers of carbon deposits. Strange isotopes. Spikes in temperature, unexplained changes in the atmosphere. Does that sound familiar? Because those are exactly the traces we are leaving behind today. Our age of industry is carving a scar into the Earth's geology, a techno-signature of humanity. But here's the haunting part. Scientists have already found mysterious anomalies in the geological record. Sudden increases in carbon. Unexplained extinctions. Strange isotopic changes. Could these be natural events? Almost certainly. Volcanoes, asteroid impacts, climate shifts, they all leave marks. But what if some of these anomalies are not natural? What if they are the buried signatures of civilizations that rose long before us, reached their peak and then fell, so completely that only faint chemical whispers remain in the rocks? The Silurian hypothesis doesn't claim ancient civilizations did exist. It simply asks, how would we ever know if they did? And the answer is chilling: we wouldn't. Unless we were willing to look. Sometimes the Earth itself seems to hold secrets it cannot quite keep. Deep within mines and rock layers millions of years old, strange anomalies have been reported. Patterns in stone that look suspiciously manufactured. Metallic objects encased in rock. Even what appear to be fossilized imprints of tools. Most of these stories are brushed aside, classified as errors, misidentifications, or outright fabrications. Yet they persist like stubborn shadows. Take the so-called London hammer. In 1936, a hammer was found encased in a rock formation in Texas. The rock itself was estimated to be over 100 million years old. Critics say the hammer may have simply been encased by mineralization, a natural process. But the image is hard to shake. A tool buried in stone older than humanity itself. Or consider the mysterious tracks reported in stone layers in Utah and Nevada, footprint-like impressions said to be tens of millions of years old. Skeptics argue they are odd geological shapes. Others whisper, are they the last traces of beings we were never meant to know about? Even in the fossil record there are puzzles. Fossilized metallic spheres in South Africa, some perfectly balanced and grooved, dating back billions of years. Nature is clever, yes. But is it that clever? Perhaps these are all coincidences. Perhaps nature enjoys playing tricks on our pattern-seeking minds. Or perhaps we are looking at fragments, tiny, broken shards of something once whole, once great, now lost beneath our feet. The Earth recycles itself endlessly, swallowing continents and vomiting up new ones. But sometimes, just sometimes, it forgets to hide everything. And what remains makes us question everything. If the idea of civilizations before us seems too strange, consider this. The universe itself is ancient beyond comprehension. Our galaxy, the Milky Way, is over 13 billion years old. Countless stars have lived and died before our sun was even born. Planets have formed, civilizations may have risen, and entire worlds may have burned to ashes long before Earth itself cooled. If civilizations can rise in the stars, why not here on Earth more than once? Perhaps intelligence is not a one-time event. Perhaps it is cyclical, emerging again and again wherever conditions allow. Each cycle rises, reaches its peak, and then falls, leaving the stage for the next. Think of Earth as a stage play. The set changes, the actors change, but the play goes on. We are only the latest performers, basking in the spotlight, unaware that others may have walked this same stage long before us. And maybe, just maybe, some of them reached heights beyond our imagination. Civilizations that spanned continents. Civilizations that reached for the stars. Civilizations that left behind nothing we can recognize because time erased it all. When we gaze at the stars and wonder if we are alone, we forget to look down, to wonder if we were ever truly alone on this very ground. What if our search for extraterrestrial life blinds us to the possibility that the alien has already been here, born not on another world, but in an age long before ours? And if civilizations rise and fall across the galaxy, why should Earth be any different? If they existed, where are they now? This is the question that gnaws at the edges of the mind. If there were civilizations before us, where are they? Why have we not found their bones, their tools, their writings? Why do we see only hints, only whispers? There are several possibilities. None of them are comforting. The first possibility: time destroyed them completely. If a civilization rose millions of years ago, then tectonics, erosion, and natural cycles may have erased all trace. Imagine every city, every library, every invention turned to dust, scattered into the wind, buried under mountains, crushed beneath oceans. Nothing left but silence. The second possibility: they destroyed themselves. Civilization is a double-edged sword. The same intelligence that builds wonders also forges weapons. If they reached for power as recklessly as we do, if they split atoms, if they tampered with nature, if they scarred their planet, perhaps they did not survive. Perhaps their brilliance was also their undoing. The third possibility: they left. If they had the technology, why stay? A dying Earth, an unstable climate, or the lure of the stars may have pushed them outward. Perhaps they fled to other planets, to moons, or even to other solar systems. And if they left, who is to say they are not still out there watching us? The fourth possibility is the darkest: they were erased. Not by time, not by themselves, but by something else. A force greater than them. Another intelligence. Something that does not tolerate rivals. Think of it. What if Earth is not simply a cradle of life, but a battlefield? A place where civilizations rise, and then are cut down by something older, stronger, merciless? Where are they now? Maybe the answer is this: exactly where we are headed. And here is the thought that chills the blood. What if we are not the first civilization, but merely the next in line? Another link in a chain of rise and ruin, doomed to repeat the same mistakes as those who came before? Look around at our world. We dig deeper and deeper for resources, even as the Earth groans under our weight. We wage wars with weapons of unimaginable power. We play with forces we barely understand: genetics, artificial intelligence, nuclear fire. If there were others before us, maybe they too reached this precipice. Maybe they too stood on the edge of greatness and destruction, blinded by their own brilliance, unable to stop themselves from falling. What if the pattern is inevitable? Civilizations bloom like flowers, rise in brilliance, then wither and die. Again and again over the vast ages of Earth. And here is the most terrifying question of all. What if we are not special? We like to believe humanity is unique, chosen, destined for greatness. But what if we are nothing more than the latest attempt? A fragile echo of something the Earth has seen countless times before? Perhaps every civilization believes it is eternal, that its monuments will last forever, that its knowledge will never be forgotten. And yet time shows no mercy. The pyramids crumble. The cities collapse. The oceans rise. One day, millions of years from now, what will remain of us? A few fragments. A few chemical scars in the rock. Perhaps some future beings will dig into the earth and find traces of plastic, of radiation, of strange anomalies. They will wonder as we wonder now, were we truly the first? The possibility is not only chilling, it is humbling. Because if we are not the first, then we must ask, are we doomed to share their fate? Picture this, a thriving civilization. Cities stretch across fertile valleys. Towers pierce the sky. Trade routes bind continents. Knowledge blooms, science flourishes, stories are written in stone and memory. And then without warning the world ends. Not just a storm, not just a war, but a cataclysm so vast, so merciless, that everything is wiped clean. In the span of a single heartbeat of geological time, a civilization that took millennia to build vanishes. This is not fantasy. This is not fiction. This is the Earth's story. Tens of millions of years ago, a rock from space the size of a mountain plunged into what is now Mexico. The Chicxulub impactor. In a single instant, it unleashed energy equivalent to billions of nuclear bombs. The dinosaurs, rulers of Earth for 165 million years, were destroyed. And if a civilization had existed back then, if intelligent beings had walked beside those ancient giants, would we have found a trace? The impact would have burned their cities to ash. Shockwaves would have leveled every monument. Tsunamis would have swallowed entire continents. The fires would have raged, then the skies would have darkened, and ice would have claimed the earth. The earth does not care who rules it. The sky does not ask permission before it falls. But not all destruction comes from above. Sometimes it rises from beneath our feet. Supervolcanoes lurk in silence beneath the crust. When they awaken, the world itself shakes apart. 74,000 years ago, the Toba supereruption exploded in present-day Indonesia. The blast hurled ash across continents, blocking the sun, dropping global temperatures, triggering what some scientists believe was a volcanic winter. Humanity, still fragile and small in number, nearly vanished. Genetic evidence suggests our population may have dwindled to just a few thousand survivors. And that was us lucky enough to endure. But what if an earlier civilization faced such fury? What if their numbers weren't enough? What if their strength, their brilliance, their monuments, all meant nothing when the skies turned black and the earth itself betrayed them? How many times has the earth hit the reset button? One cataclysm, however, strikes closer to home and closer to the timeline of human memory. Roughly 12,800 years ago, at the end of the Ice Age, something happened. The climate shifted violently. Temperatures plummeted. Species vanished. Mammoths and saber-toothed cats disappeared forever. What caused it? Some point to a massive meltwater flood, others to cometary fragments raining from the heavens. Whatever it was sudden, devastating, and global. And here's the unsettling part. This moment of destruction coincides almost exactly with the sudden erasure of mysterious cultures we barely understand. It was around this time that Gobekli Tepe was constructed, as if in response to disaster. As if survivors were trying to preserve memory, to rebuild from ashes. What if the Younger Dryas was not the beginning of civilization, but the end of a much older one? A global event that erased nearly everything, sparing only fragments, myths, and a handful of survivors who carried whispers into the future. When the ice melted, seas rose by over 400 feet. Imagine entire coastlines, rich, fertile, densely populated, swallowed forever. Cities, ports, temples all dragged into the depths. Today our great cities hug the coasts. New York, Shanghai, London, Mumbai. If the seas rose that high again, they too would be lost. So when we search for evidence of lost civilizations on dry land, are we searching in the wrong place? The ocean may be their grave, holding entire worlds we will never see. And if that is true, then the cataclysm did more than erase it buried. Cataclysm is not rare. It is the rule of Earth's history. Asteroids, volcanoes, solar flares, magnetic reversals, ice ages, floods, each one a hammer, each one a test, each one a cycle that ends what came before, making way for what comes next. What if civilizations before us lived not in peace, but in constant fear of the next blow? What if their myths, their rituals, their obsessions with fire and flood were not imagination, but memory? And here is the haunting truth. If they lived and if they died in cataclysm, their ruins would not endure. Their bones would not last. Their knowledge would be scattered to the winds. Only echoes remain, echoes of cataclysm. We like to believe our world is permanent. Skyscrapers of glass, cities of steel, satellites in the sky. We believe we are unshakable. But all it would take is one asteroid, one eruption, one shift in climate, and our entire story would be erased. Within 10,000 years, less than the blink of an eye in geological time, our monuments would crumble, our records would fade, our machines would rust away. And millions of years from now, we would be nothing but a strange layer in the rocks, just as they are. Perhaps we are not the first. Perhaps we are only the latest song in a long, tragic symphony. And the earth has always been the conductor of its final note. Imagine for a moment that not everything was lost. That when cataclysms swept the earth, when fire, ice, and water erased cities and knowledge, a few survivors endured. Not in massive empires, not in sprawling metropolises, but in hidden corners, isolated valleys, secret enclaves. They survived, hidden from the chaos, carrying pieces of knowledge, skills, and culture that had been honed over millennia. These were the hidden survivors, the last echoes of a civilization that had risen and fallen before humans claimed the earth. Across the globe, myths whisper of mysterious visitors or beings of great wisdom. In South America, the Andes hold stories of the Viracocha, a godlike figure who brought knowledge to the first people, teaching them agriculture, astronomy, and civilization itself. In North America, the Hopi spoke of the Kachina spiritual teachers, sometimes described as star people, who guided early humans after the fall of the previous world. In Europe, Celtic legends describe the Tuatha De Danann, a race of advanced, almost magical beings who lived before humans and retreated into hills and mounds when the New World arrived. Across India, the Vedic texts speak of advanced beings descending from the heavens, wielding technologies and wisdom that seemed impossible. Could these stories be merely metaphor, or are they distorted memories of those who survived the great cataclysms? Survivors who preserved knowledge, passed it on in secret, waiting for the world to be ready to remember? Look at the megalithic structures scattered across the planet: Gobekli Tepe, the pyramids of Egypt, Stonehenge, the ancient temples of Malta. Their construction defies the known capabilities of the civilizations we thought built them. Massive stones transported over miles, aligned perfectly with celestial events, carved with precision that challenges modern tools. Many scholars suggest lost knowledge, passed down from ancient cultures now forgotten. Could these be the handiwork of hidden survivors, humans or beings carrying forward knowledge from a civilization far older than recorded history? Perhaps they were not inventors, but custodians, keepers of a memory too dangerous or too sacred to reveal fully. What if fragments of their knowledge remain embedded in our own culture? Mathematics, astronomy, architecture, and even religious symbolism often echo with patterns that seem older than humanity. The golden ratio, for example, appears in structures worldwide, from pyramids to temples. Ancient maps, like the Piri Reis map of 1513, show coastlines and continents with surprising accuracy, suggesting knowledge of Earth that shouldn't have existed. Is it possible that hidden survivors passed these secrets to humanity slowly, guiding us toward progress without revealing themselves directly? Perhaps some monuments were not just places of worship, but messages, carefully encoded instructions meant for a distant future civilization. Messages that would be decipherable only when the time was right. Some scientists theorize that memory may survive not only in texts or stone but in our very biology. Genetic memory, the idea that experiences of ancestors can leave subtle imprints on DNA, is controversial but intriguing. What if the knowledge of a prior civilization survived not in libraries, but in our very blood? Certain skills, instincts, or predispositions could be faint echoes of those who walked the earth long before us. The Hopi, Maya, and other cultures spoke of knowledge passed down through generations, encoded in rituals and stories, ensuring survival even after catastrophe. Could our ability to innovate, create, and survive be a shadow of their teachings? History is full of societies that remained hidden for centuries, untouched by the modern world. Could remnants of an ancient civilization have survived similarly, concealed in the dense jungles of South America, the mountains of Asia, or beneath the ice of Antarctica. Some speculate that certain megalithic structures in Antarctica, now buried under ice, were built by civilizations long before humans as we know them. Satellite imagery hints at geometric patterns, straight lines, and terraces, structures unlikely to be natural formations. Could the frozen continent hold remnants of those hidden survivors? And if they did survive, even in tiny enclaves, they may have influenced early humans indirectly, through storytelling, symbolic teaching, or even guiding migrations. Perhaps the myths we call legends are actually faint memories of the hidden teachers. Consider this. If hidden survivors guided early humanity, what was their purpose? Were they benevolent, trying to preserve knowledge? Or were they cautious, fearful of what humanity might become? Or could they still exist today? Not in plain sight, but in remote, unexplored regions of the earth? Watching, waiting, ensuring that the mistakes of the past are not repeated, or that history follows its inevitable cycle. The idea is chilling. Humanity may not be the first intelligent civilization, but we may be walking in the shadows of those who survived, guided by their remnants, even if we do not realize it. The hidden survivors, if they existed, remind us that knowledge is fragile, civilization is temporary, and the echoes of the past may still influence the present. Imagine standing on the edge of a cliff, staring down at a world that is eerily familiar. Cities stretch across fertile valleys, smoke rises from industrial chimneys, and humans scurry like ants in a colony of their own making. You look closer and the patterns start to repeat. The rise and fall of civilizations is not random. History, it seems, has a rhythm. And if civilizations before us existed, perhaps their story was much like ours, brilliant, ambitious, and ultimately fragile. Look at what humanity has achieved. Agriculture, writing, cities, technology, medicine, and industry. We have bent nature to our will. We have split atoms, mapped the genome, and sent probes to other planets. And yet, we face the same challenges as those who came before. Resource depletion, climate change, conflict, hubris. The same forces that might have toppled previous civilizations are pressing on us now, whispering warnings from the shadows of time. What if their demise is mirrored in our own? What if the patterns of collapse are inevitable, embedded in the very nature of intelligent life? Consider the evidence of ecological destruction. Forests stripped bare, oceans filled with plastic, species disappearing at alarming rates. Climate change accelerates with each passing year. Millions of years ago, a civilization could have thrived, only to be undone by its inability to live in balance with the earth. Supervolcanoes, meteor strikes, and ice ages are uncontrollable, but environmental degradation, overconsumption, and short-sightedness? Those are human-made, and they repeat history's most dangerous mistakes. Are we, unknowingly, following the same path as those who vanished before us? Intelligence is a double-edged sword. It creates, but it also destroys. Ancient myths describe wars that shook the heavens. Texts from multiple cultures hint at conflicts using weapons of unimaginable power. Perhaps these were symbolic, perhaps literal. But what remains undeniable is this. Civilizations that reach technological heights too quickly are vulnerable to self-destruction. Look at our world today. Nuclear arsenals capable of erasing life on Earth. AI systems that could escape human control. Biotechnology that could reshape or end species. The mirror is frighteningly clear. The tools of creation are also the instruments of annihilation. Perhaps those who came before us fell because they failed to wield them wisely, and perhaps we are teetering on the same knife edge. Civilizations are not only fragile physically, they are fragile morally. Knowledge without wisdom can lead to ruin. Greed, pride, intolerance, and conflict have toppled societies again and again. The hidden survivors, the remnants of prior civilizations, may have understood this. Perhaps they encoded their warnings in myths, in rituals, in geometry, in stories. Perhaps the tales of the flood, of fire from the sky, of vanished golden ages, are mirrors held up to humanity, warning us not to repeat their mistakes. And yet, do we see the reflection, or do we ignore it, blinded by ambition? Imagine a timeline stretching back millions of years. Civilization rises, thrives, and falls. Cataclysm strikes, survivors scatter, myths and fragments endure. Slowly, intelligence rises again. And now, in this cycle, we stand at the latest apex. Our cities are magnificent. Our technology is unprecedented. And yet, the pressures of nature, of ourselves, and of fate are the same as they always were. What if history is not linear but cyclical? What if the rise and fall of civilizations is inevitable, a pattern that echoes across time, repeated until a species either learns to break the cycle or vanishes like those before us? If civilizations existed before humans, then we are not unique. We are not the beginning. We are not even the pinnacle. We are part of a long repeating experiment. And the mirror shows us not just what we are, but what we may become. The question becomes unavoidable. Will humanity survive, or are we destined to repeat the mistakes of those who came before? Will our monuments crumble, our cities sink, and our knowledge fade into whispers and myths? The mirror reflects our present, but also our future, a future that is fragile, fleeting, and all too familiar. Every environmental collapse, every war, every unchecked innovation, every ignored warning is part of a pattern. The earth does not forget. The echoes of past civilizations are inscribed in the rocks, in myths, in oceans, in the very DNA of life. And the most terrifying thought? The mirror suggests that time may not be forgiving. That the lessons of the past, no matter how clearly written, can still be ignored. We are standing at a precipice, peering over the edge. Behind us, the shadows of civilizations long gone. Ahead, the unknown. The question remains, will humanity endure, or will we join the ranks of the hidden, the vanished, the forgotten? Tonight, we have traveled through time itself. We have wandered through the shadows of forgotten civilizations, stared into the abyss of cataclysm, and glimpsed the hidden survivors who may have shaped the world long before humans claimed it. And now we arrive at the final, haunting question. What if, beneath the mountains, beneath the oceans, and beneath the ice, there are remnants of a past far older and more advanced than anything we imagine? What if the myths, the OOP arts, the megaliths, and the whispers in our stories are not imagination, but the faint echoes of beings who lived, thrived, and vanished long before we even existed? The evidence is fragmentary. It is scattered, elusive, and often denied. But the possibility remains. And the thought is enough to make you question everything you've been told about history, about humanity, about yourself. History may not be kind. Civilizations rise, grow, and fall in cycles, often repeating the mistakes of those who came before. Environmental collapse, war, arrogance, greed, these are not new threats. They are old, ancient, and relentless. If humans are not the first, then we are part of that cycle. And we must ask ourselves, will we survive, or are we destined to join the ranks of the lost, forgotten civilizations whose stories survive only in myth and whispers? The mirror is before us. The reflection is clear. Will we learn, or will we repeat the past? If this journey through the hidden, the mysterious, and the ancient has thrilled you, if it has made your heart race and your mind question everything you thought you knew, then there is one thing left to do. Hit the like button, subscribe to join me on future journeys into the unknown, and ring the notification bell so you never miss a descent into the mysteries of our world. Because there is always more beneath the surface. More hidden, more forgotten, more waiting to be discovered. And remember, sometimes the past is closer than we think. Good night, and beware the shadows of civilizations long gone.